Caroline Lucas, do you define what is happening right now as climate change?
Well, I share the issue that you can never point to one single weather event and say that was caused by climate change. But I think what you can do is look at the kind of trends we've just been hearing about and say that absolutely is consistent with climate change. 6 of the 7 wettest years have been in this century. So I think it's clear that we are getting much wetter weather. That is much more in line with what climate change is likely to bring us, and hopefully will be galvanising our political leaders here at home and when they're negotiating in Paris to make sure that we do get the most ambitious deal that we possibly can. Well,
the two major parties are singing two different songs. I mean, the Labour Party is saying there should be a new risk assessment carried out right across the country. The government is saying it ought to re-examine its own flood science. Which is it?
Well, it probably needs to do both, quite honestly, but right now with the Paris talks happening, what we need is for the government to be demonstrating here at home some ambitious policy so that they've got more credibility when they're negotiating for those climate talks. And I think when you've got a Prime Minister who has been slashing support to renewable energy, who has been cancelling the zero carbon homes policy, who is sanctioning a whole new dash for gas, all of that is going in exactly the wrong direction. So what I think we need to see is a Prime Minister who doesn't only give us warm words in Paris, but actually delivers on that here at home.
Well, briefly, I mean, Tom Clark identified a cascade of rain incidents over the last few years. I mean, do you think public opinion will now change and swing behind genuine commitment to green alternatives?
I think we're seeing that already happening, and I think the good news as well is that not only is the public interested in that, but I think we're seeing more and more businesses who are saying, for example, as Tom was saying, that we need to be aiming not just to keep our warming below 2 degrees, but actually below 1.5 degrees. That's something that's come out of the Paris climate talks so far, being promoted by many businesses there, as well as by over half the countries present. Now, that is a real turning point, I think. So there really does feel a sense in Paris that things could actually deliver a decent agreement. It won't be good enough. We'll have to improve it over time. But I'm hoping that you know, the events like this, absolutely awful as they are, I mean, they absolutely have to galvanise our politicians to do their very best.
Well, now, one other quick issue, and that is today you've resigned from the Stop the War campaign, and I'm wondering whether it's related to their classifying the IS movement as in some way in the spirit of internationalism that drove the international brigades to try and rescue the people of Spain during the attempt by the fascists to take over.
Look, I think your watchers are going to be far more interested in the issue of climate change than whether or not I've resigned from an organisation.
Well, except that it is a very big issue at the moment because of Jeremy Corbyn's situation.
Well, what happened was a couple of weeks ago, I wrote to them and asked if they would take my name off their list of patrons because I was troubled by certain statements that they'd made. That has now been leaked to the press today, and hence the furore. But I go back to the main issue we should be talking about today, which is the Paris climate talks and the focus on hopefully getting the best possible deal, because that's going to be a really big threat to our security.
But I'm bound to ask you whether the leader of a major party, the Labour Party, should attend a dinner and a fundraiser in their interests.
And I'm bound to answer that what Jeremy Corbyn decides to do, I'm sure, will be what he thinks is the best thing to do.
Caroline Lucas, thank you very much for joining us.